We try again. So, the meeting resumes with a consideration of a report on the food festival and agreeing our involvement in next year's food festival. There is a paper. Not sure who wants to talk to this specifically.
I think that's probably me, since I submitted it. Thank you. I won't read out the paper. I assume everybody's had the opportunity to read it. I think the first thing to say is that obviously I'm presenting this wearing two hats, that of Creative Arundel and obviously a councillor around this table. Jerry is also clearly a board member of Creative Arundel as well, and he will hopefully confirm what I'm about to say, which is that we don't have the capacity to organise it. Creative Arundel don't have the capacity to organise it in 2024. So the first decision probably that needs to be made is whether the town council want to take it on as they did in this current year, and they did it very well, it has to be said. It's also actually been pointed out by a new board member of Creative Arundel that it's probably actually outside of the aims of the charity anyway, and is not in line with our charitable status, but that's maybe slightly by the by. So if we do want to take it on, the next part of the decision-making process is really to have a view on what we want to get out of the food festival. And you'll see that I've talked about purpose and product. What I mean by product is that the food festival is a product, and what is the kind of image and messages that we want to send out from the town council about Arundel with the food festival. And in that sense, the way it's been organised out of pragmatic concerns in the past is, and Emma can correct me here, is that it's been primarily reactive in the sense that adverts go out and the food festival is essentially made up of those people who respond to the adverts, which is all well and good, but it means that we get whoever takes up our offer. And I'm wondering whether or not we perhaps need to be more proactive in terms of trying to match the stallholders with the image that we wish to give off. And in particular, something I would like to see, perhaps rebalancing where we emphasize quality a little bit more and local producers a little bit more and street food a little bit less. So realistically moving forward, you can see at the bottom of the document, I propose three options. One is that we essentially carry on as we did last year. We organise it on a reactive basis. Secondly, we perhaps moderate that a little bit by having a subgroup of a small number of councillors, 2 or 3 here, to work with Emma and her team to support them to develop a clearer vision of what we want to get out of Food Festival 24. Still delivering it. And then 3 is a variant on number 2, which is that, and this is what I personally recommend, is that we still work with Creative Arundel in a joint effort to deliver Food Festival 24, but where there'll be a division of responsibilities, a clearly defined and delineated set of duties and responsibilities, where Creative Arundel could, for example, help Emma and her team look at desirable traders that will fulfil the town council's vision for Food Festival 24, but we could also augment all of that by having demonstration events in QBH, for example, performance events such as music going on in and around the town. And so it becomes more of a joint effort, relying on the strengths of Creative Arundel and what it can bring to the table, together with the team that Emma has that worked so successfully on Food Festival 23. So that's basically what the paper is. The first decision to make is, do we want Food Festival 24? If so, the consequence of that is that OTC will have to do most of the administrative organisation in-house. Do we want to sit down fairly quickly and develop a vision around that in terms of what we want to deliver, and B, in terms of delivering that, do we want to work with Creative Arundel in some form or another?
Thank you. Councillor Chester.
Historically, the food festival was something which unless I'm completely wrong, the old organ festival, I forget what it was called now.
International Festival.
International Festival.
Yeah.
And they started it to keep the people who were going to come to the town as tourists happy all day rather than just the evening part or the latter part of the day. So it actually wasn't, I don't think, ever
I don't know.
the Arundel Town Council's it was actually the international.
Yeah, which is now called Creative Arundel.
It's now called Creative
That's the
Arundel, so I got that
organisation.
right. So because you're talking about the vision, that's all. So the vision was, it was always a vision of the international festival.
Yeah, it was never concurrent with the actual Organ Festival. It was always
No. Once in June, once in July.
Yes, but it was, it originally, they were at the
If you
same
go
time.
back long enough,
They were at the same time. They were at the same time to start with.
it may be.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm just wondering about whose vision is it? Is it the town council's vision or the Creative Arundel's?
Well, given that Creative Arundel are not in a position to organise it for 24, it will become the town council's vision. Essentially what I'm saying is, and also what's happened, however many years ago, I think things have moved on.
Sure. Absolutely.
It may have started with a very clear vision. I think from what I can see, it's whatever vision it had, that's been lost.
Yeah.
And what I'm effectively saying is that is now the time to recreate that vision.
So are you saying that it should become totally the town council's food festival?
Well, what I was saying at the beginning is that Creative Arundel are not in a position to organise it in 2024, and they weren't in a position in 2023. We don't have a full-time, well, not even a full-time, we don't have a part-time administrator anymore. So if it's going to happen, just as it did this year, it's got to happen essentially under the umbrella of Emma and her team, who took it on for 2023, did an excellent job. Essentially what I'm saying is, do we want to continue as if, as it was in this year, or do we want to try and develop it in some form?
Right.
Councillor Orme, Councillor Wade, and Councillor Hunt.
I really like Max's proposal. I think it actually works quite well. But the one question I have is, Emma, what do you think about your? You know what I mean? Do you think you'd be able to do it?
Yeah. I've spoken to members of the team, and yes, we can do it. We've got a really good setup when you were saying about looking at different trades, we've got a really good setup of knowing the traders. We've got our online form, booking form things. Obviously, if we can get other people interested, other foods, but if you want to, that's if we just do like for like what we did. If you want to change the vision,
Okay.
it depends on how quickly and what you want to change it into, because if it changes drastically, and we don't decide that until February, the months are then, we're losing time,
Yeah.
and it is, it does take a bit of time organising it. So, I don't know, I mean, maybe my thoughts would be we possibly do a similar thing. I quite like the collaborating with Creative Amber for the performance side of things and that side. But we could possibly do like for last year. I think if we really want to change it or consider it, we perhaps need to start doing that in July.
What I should just add, because again, it's not in the paper, is that I've already done, together with somebody else in Creative Arndor, quite a lot of work on who the potential stallholders could be. So we have that list. That list is already operational. So from a practical point of view, I know you clearly want to move on very quickly in January and February. We could meet in early January, just simply go over the list, sit down with Lisa and Morag, and essentially, create a list of who we want to invite. We're ready to do that whenever your staff wish to do it. So that work has already been done. And of course, there is some overlap with the people that we already have on the list.
Yeah.
What we're effectively saying is that we can help Lisa and Morag augment that, as soon as you're ready to go.
Okay.
So we've been asked two questions. One should be festival. Yes, I think it's a very valuable way of attracting people into the town. If you look at the vision of the town as spelled out by the council, we want to join to live, work and play in, and so we ought to do the food festival. I'm with Max in that we could make it different. But I understand from the member's perspective, I'll come on to resources in a second. If we want to make too radical a change, we may not have the time to make that happen. So it may just be this is a transition this year.
Exactly.
And there's better, better time to plan properly. I hate reactive management. Now, that said, I differ from Max in which of the options should be taken up. We started off by saying that one member of the Creative Angle board isn't sure that it fits with the aims and objectives of Creative Angle. I think it actually fits more with the aims and objectives of Town Council, who already do a weekend market, who do a farmers market, who do a Christmas market, and this is another market, effectively, which calls on the skills honed by the Town Council with other markets, and the Town Council will be involved in closing the road, the Town Council will be involved in putting together the security guards, the Town Council will be involved in making sure the insurance is right. It just seems to me that it's a Town Council thing. I wouldn't have it any involvement from Creative Angle in the management of the food festival. I think option 2 is right. A councillor or two to work with and provide some support and some direction. We can certainly leverage off the work that's been done in Creative Angle. My main worry about option 3, which is being supported, my main worry about that is if you have two different organisations without a significantly understandable, very clear bifurcation between responsibilities, you will end up with one organisation saying, I thought another organisation was doing it. We cannot afford that because the Angle, as a town, needs to present itself as a good, well-organised place and a joy to visit in line with the vision. So I would propose option 2, not option 3. I propose a council or 2 involved in supporting the staff, and I think involving creative handlers, anything other than providing entertainment in the QBH or in the town square would muddy waters, and I don't think we can afford to do that. And my final point, again in support of option 2, is about resource. 2 years ago, the town council staff were not organising this. This year, the town council staff are. We haven't had any further town council staff in. I see no reason why the town council staff can't do it again in 24 and thereafter with the appropriate support. So I have a counter proposal that we go for option 2, not option 3.
Councillor Hutton.
I was just going to ask, I'm conscious that there are other food markets that have happened in the past. We've had French and Italian food markets as well, which I believe the council staff have been involved in helping.
Yeah, we
organise.
organised all of those.
Yeah, so I mean, so it's, I'm just conscious that, we probably don't need all the farmers markets, the Christmas markets, the French market, Italian market, and the food festival. I don't know whether
We
there's.
don't do the Italian or the French anymore because we didn't get very good feedback. I think the French market, it was a group that came over.
Yeah.
They no longer do
They
it.
don't do that.
And the Italian, it just wasn't successful, so we haven't done those. I don't think since before COVID.
No, I was
Yeah, yeah.
so no.
And they don't look like they're about to start up again.
So it's in some respects, it's actually taking on the food festival would actually replace something that we
Yeah,
have
it
lost.
sort of replaces that, yeah.
Councillor Rochford.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On balance, having tried to listen carefully and take in what colleagues have said, well, I wouldn't want to reflect adversely on the careful ratiocination that the professor has done in terms of option 3. I think on balance, provided Emma's confident that our staff could handle it readily, I'd be inclined to go for option 2, as Councillor Wade recommends.
Councillor.
My view is a fusion of 2 and 3, because, I mean, Max has already suggested as a variant, to have Creative Oundle and OTC work together with clearly defined responsibilities of who should do what. Because if you say that the team in OTC have got resources, or you've got resources to be able to do it, having been involved before, we'd also have previous knowledge. Max has already got a list of people to invite in the new year. So I think a fusion of, the team at Oundle and Creative Oundle with their input on the creative side, like you said, maybe with displays and shows or, the entertainment side of things. I don't know, should it be one or the other, or?
Councillor Shaw.
Yes, thank you very much. In order to hopefully draw this to a conclusion, in which case then I'll also support proposal 2 in the basis that it's very much belongs to OTC and Emma's team, so they own it. And within that, should they wish to invite Creative Oundle to do various things within the umbrella created by Oundle, then I'm sure that might be receptive. So option 2, so it's owned very much by OTC and Emma's team, and it's up to them to decide if they wish to invite Creative Oundle to do certain things under their umbrella.
Councillor Hutton.
Yes, I think Councillor Shaw is right. In other words, option 2, as modified, Oundle Town Council team control, but invite Creative Oundle to cooperate as best they can under the OTC's organisation umbrella. I think this should conclude, otherwise we'll be sitting here at midnight.
I think that's what I don't know.
Councillor Wade.
If we're going for option 2, which remains my proposal, which councillors are going to be involved.
Well,
Do we propose the proposal first?
before we get on to that bit, I think we need to come to a view in principle. But what seems to have emerged is a consensus. We want to make the event happen. I'll defer to the clerk, which is anxious to do.
What sort of involvement will those councils have? Because we run quite a tight ship on organising, and we've got a group of, well, 4 of us that work together. We're together daily. We're making decisions. I mean, major decisions obviously go back to estates and things like that, but we're, you know, organising the event management plan, making sure all the risk assessments are up to date, getting in the bookings, making sure we've got all of the relevant forms that we need. I just don't know what these 2 councils are going to be doing.
Can I try and answer that?
Councillor Wade and then Councillor Shearer.
I think that's a very good point. If you've got processes in place, the processes should be yours. I think that's what I read from option 2. However, I also differentiate strategic decisions from operational decisions. You describe as an operational process. That works really well, great. But if the town council are responsible for it, the council is ultimately responsible for it. And so therefore, for me, at the initial stage, setting the scene and agreeing the parameters is a council's role. That would be my understanding of the.
But it wouldn't be those 2 individual ones. It would be a whole council that would make that decision.
In
Because
terms
you
of,
can't have 2 councillors making a fundamental decision on something that the whole council is responsible for.
but unless you want 12 or 14 people discussing one item, it will be far easier, I think, if the team and 1 or 2 councillors said, this is what we think it should be, and it comes back with a recommendation to the council for discussion, rather than a free-form discussion on what it should be, because that, as Councillor Michael said, could possibly that. It could be more efficiently managed than suggested.
Councillor Shearer.
So my pragmatic view about this is that, first of all, the clock is ticking. And I think that's one of the things that Emma's very rightly concerned about, in that we need to move this forward in January. We need to have it fairly finalised by the beginning of February. So pragmatically, what I would like to propose is that Emma sets up a meeting with her team and invites, as I said, 2 or 3 councillors. I'm happy to be one. It sounds as though maybe my neighbour to my left is potentially putting himself forward as another. And that meeting is simply to do one thing, and that is to advise. It's not to tell you what to do. You know, you've done it before, you know what to do. As I said, what I can bring to the table is a list of, you know, potential traders that we might want to look at, and it's there purely in an advisory capacity. It's owned by you and your team. You know, what we can also advise on is whether or not we want to think of things beyond just the store traders, you know, music that was mentioned, for example, in relation to the Christmas market, whether or not we have demonstrations in QBH. So it's an advisory capacity, and so that we essentially, at 1 or 2 meetings in January, give your team a clear steer in terms of how they move forward. And pragmatically, that's all I think we can do at this stage, given the urgency to move this along during January.
So, I think there's enthusiasm for ensuring the event continues. I think there's an understanding that the council is well equipped to manage what I think Councillor Wade described as the operational aspects of it in-house. And it seems relatively pointless for individual councillors to become over-involved in that aspect of the matter. Maybe a case of too many cooks, if nothing else, it seems to me. In terms of, it's sometimes referred to as the vision thing, in other words, looking at the extent to which, if at all, it could or should be broadened in terms of the market aspects of it. I could see that you could have an input from a couple of councillors into that, if the council wants to delegate, as it were, to a couple of councillors that role, as looking at that, and then the operational side of it may tell us can't be done, or it can't be done in time for this year, because that is one of the issues. And I think the creative angle thing is almost the augmentation of that. Do they want to become involved in, as it were, peripheral things that are run alongside the market, which is run in-house?
Correct, under the aegis of the council. It's not a creative activity.
Yeah. So, is that the feeling that is emerging, that sort of setup is what we should have? In which case, you then need to perhaps entrust to a couple of councillors that role in, to say, not getting over involved in the operational side of things at all, but simply providing some independent thought into the process. It seems to me there's a good deal of logic in Councillor Shore being one of them, because of his fact he's researched it, the fact he's involved with the creative angle. Councillor Wade, if you're willing to say something, that would be helpful. I don't think we need anybody else. I think just having a couple of people who can talk to each other, bring something to the party, and potentially report back to us in January about where we are with this. And then we can also talk independently to Creative Angle about, do they want to augment the food festival by running things alongside it, but under our umbrella and clearing with us what's done and where. So, is that appeal?
Yeah, move.
You'll be happy with that? Fine. Thank you for that debate. I don't anticipate it would go on quite as long, and I do feel that the food festival is a very important part of what this town is all about. But we had that festival vision a few years ago. We have the music festivals, and we have this, and we have our Christmas market, and we have lit festivals throughout the year, and it's all very much part of bringing Arundel together and bringing people into Arundel for the benefit of the whole town. So, talking about bringing people into Arundel and doing things for the benefit of the whole town, then brings us on to the D-Day issue. There is a risk, it seems to me, of us overextending ourselves if we're not too careful. But on the other hand, this is a somewhat one-off event, and it's unlikely if we do celebrate another one, it won't be for at least another 10 years on. It might be 20 years on when it becomes 100 anniversary of it.
Or it might be 2, because the actual war itself didn't finish until 45, so in 2 years' time, it'll be 80 years since it.
Well, I appreciate that's a whole new ball game, but let's not get too far down that road. Or I do notice that it's referred to within the note. What is clear from the note is that the Royal British Legion, whilst having some ideas for it, want to restrict themselves to a role that is semi-ceremonial, it seems to me. So if there is to be a kind of social event run alongside what RBL would no doubt do, even if the council wasn't involved, that's going to come down to the council. By that it means either councillors or council staff or a combination of both. I think almost the first question I would ask of Emma is there any enthusiasm for stroke capacity for doing the sorts of things that, you know, sound great, you know, the idea of a 1940s music event inside Fugate is all great, but who actually has got the time to do this?
I think if we weren't organising the food festival, we would have a good stab at it, but even looking at that, that is a lot of stuff to put together in 6 months. And I don't know whether, my view is that that's way too much for us to organise in this period of time, unless you've got a big working party and you've got people, different organisations doing different things. I think to put it all on our shoulders is a lot, and I'd hate to attempt to try and do something and it not work out. So at the moment, I think Lane Reef on Thursday is doable. And I mean, if Andrew Docks on a film or something, then, you know, we could ask them and they might do that, but they do that anyway and they would just do that separately. But I don't know, because I mean, the classic vehicles, we're going to have them in May at the Vintage Festival.
Yeah.
So, and Ian has already said Oundle School, they're not sure because it's exams. So I don't know. I mean, at the moment, I've just got Lane.
Yeah. Councillor Wright.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think Emma is right. It'll take some doing. Moreover, there is a further consideration. The present commemoration of Armistice Day, 1918, I think gets it right, and also seamlessly it enables people to remember the end of the Second World War. There is a further and wider consideration. While the D-Day campaign is very relevant indeed, and could be described as the end of the beginning, I think we now sadly need to look to the wider picture. In that, it looks as though we're building up to some sort of a war, in which reunited and democratic Germany is our ally inside NATO. So perhaps we ought not to organise too much, looking back to when the free world united to smash Hitler's Reich.
So
here's one just to throw in. What is this an opportunity for Creative Animal to organise something? I raise that only because we from Emma's point of view, and she's absolutely right, we mustn't take too much on. I'd rather do one thing really well than two things averagely well. We don't have to do all of this stuff. I think it's really easy if people are not going to be organising stuff to say, let's do this, and this, because I bear no responsibility for it at all. So we don't have to do this stuff that's been suggested. If all we did was organise a dance for a Glenn Miller band, maybe that's something Creative Animal could take on, maybe not. I actually go back to my very first point, which is, do we make a big celebration of the beginning and the end of the Second World War, or a better celebration of the end of the Second World War? I don't think this is something we should be taking on now. I think there's another time we could be doing it, if we do it at all.
Councillor Shore.
Again, I'm very much with the way the debate's going. I probably support Emma here. I think it looks great on paper, but who is going to organise it? And the point is, they make it clear that they don't want to organise it, they being the Royal British Legion. So it's just a bit like pass the parcel. I think it's not a parcel that we should pick up. Something like this, I don't think even could be organised within the time frame. It probably takes at least 9 to 12 months to organise something like this properly. I don't think we can take it on. I'm not going to rise to the debate about the Arndle, but if Emma or whoever wish to contact Creative Arndle, I mean, Creative Arndle do now have a regular cinema night every month. I don't think there is one planned for June. Maybe we could suggest that they do a D-Day kind of film in June. But, you know, as I say, I can't speak for Creative Arndle. That would have to go to the board and we'd have to have a decision about that. But I fully support Emma. It's not something I think, it would be asking too much in too little time.
I don't see or hear anybody really demurring from that view, which in some respects is unfortunate. I mean, it would be lovely to feel we could take it on, but I think a bit of realism has perhaps set in. We don't want to overextend ourselves and make a mess of it. We can play a role within what RBL have planned. If any other organisation or organisations in the town want to pick this up and run with it, fine. But I suspect that that's probably as far as we can take it now. So, absent other developments, I think we'll probably be some shelving there. On the subject of Remembrance Day, we have a nice letter from Tom Firstbuck, who attended on the Sunday for our Remembrance Day. Nothing much to say, but it's nice to see his acknowledgement of the good work that went into putting on that fine event, which we talked about for the last time. Trying to move relatively swiftly on, because we're an hour into the meeting when we just reached the mayor's report. It's relatively short, and part of it was talking about the Christmas market. It might have been not quite so short, it hadn't been quite so probably for the last fortnight, because although I wasn't specifically invited to various events, wearing my mayoral hat, as it were, I had been intending to go to the Lit Festival this week, but couldn't. I had intended to go to the Coral Society concert on Saturday night, but I couldn't. So it's a little unfortunate, but anyway. The clerk's report has been circulated. It's as comprehensive as ever. If anybody's got any quick questions for Emma, fine.
So one, Martin's been interested. They've had a Zoom conference. They couldn't tell you very much. One is about government management. Are you going to get more details? Is that going to be taken into the community emergency plan that you're going to be doing some centre?
No, because, well, that's a different sort of plan. This is purely around events. So what an event that you put on and you add it into your event management plan, the terrorism part of it. Emergency plan is the emergency plan if there's an emergency in the town. But there's more information. The only thing I'll say is it's geared to indoor and outdoor events where there is a defined boundary and there's an entrance and exit.
Okay.
So although we've done training, it potentially wouldn't necessarily affect our markets because there isn't a defined boundary and there's exits off in every direction. Okay. So I'm getting regular information coming in there, so I'll know more.
Wonderful. Second question then, the business support programme that's coming into Andor on the 23rd of January, how are we promoting that?
We put it out on social media.
Have we contacted the OVA?
I forwarded it all to them as well, yeah. Yeah, anything that I get that's business, I always send off to Paul and Philip Vance.
Councillor Shore.
Yes, not a question, but a point of information on the penultimate row, 237401, where it says, I see awaiting MS edits. And he had them about 2.5 to 3 months ago. So unless he's waiting for something that I'm completely unaware of.
Sorry, I can't find that, so.
Sorry, it's the penultimate row. It's to receive report on OCT transport study. And it says, report to be published once editing is complete, waiting for MS edits. So I gave them to him about 2 months, 3 months
Okay,
ago.
yeah, all right.
So,
That's, I'll put complete.
yeah, maybe. As far as I'm concerned, it's in his, the ball's been batted back.
Yeah, transport study is, so yeah. I must admit, one thing that I picked up on, and it's rather sad, it is to look at the correspondence and to see that somebody was complaining about an overflowing dog who had been on the 27th of November, and by the following day, somebody was reporting it
Yeah.
all altogether.
It's gone, yeah. It's one that was tied to a tree. I don't know why it was tied to a tree, but apparently it was. But then it became detached from the tree. It was overflowing, I think the people that came to empty it, physically possibly couldn't empty it because it wasn't held down, so it's gone. So it is one of us, so we will have to replace it at some point. But I think find a better location.
Right. The next one is simply to receive the employment law update. So that then moves us on to approve the signing of the museum lease. I don't know if we've actually physically received a document
No.
signed as yet. I was hoping that that would have been the case. But presumably we could authorise the signing of it if it comes in, rather than have to wait all the way through to next month.
Councillor Fuller came in today and he thought that he'd got to sign it. And
He
hadn't
will,
signed it.
he will also have to sign a copy of it. There'll be two copies basically, one signed on behalf of the Museum Trust by Councillor Fuller as its chair, and one signed on behalf of the council by Councillor Mayor. But we're rather waiting on the council solicitors to produce their copy, as it were, for signature. And although I have been trying to prompt them into getting it done in time for tonight. But again, as the council has approved that lease,
Yeah,
presumably simply giving authority for its signature when it's available will enable us to perhaps sign it before the third week in January, which is where we're heading if not. I know the museum is terribly, terribly keen to get it done as quickly as we possibly can. Bearing in mind that I'm in a slightly ridiculous position of signing it on behalf of the council, but also having been involved in sorting it out on behalf of the Museum Trust. Probably be helpful if somebody who wasn't actually proposed the approval of the signing of the lease.
Provided there be no further amendments since the last council approval. I think that's a proposal.
The only amendment is that council solicitors again got the council's address wrong. Having altered it in one place, I pointed out that they hadn't actually altered it in every place where it appeared, so they altered it there. But beyond having said that we're no longer at the Victoria Hall, which really is quite a long time ago because we moved from there to the courthouse before we moved here, but they have got it right there.
So that's a proposal subject to the no further material amendment to the lease and council approval, that it's signed between now and the next meeting.
Will I have a second of that, please? Or somebody? Councillor
I'm just wondering whether I should do it as an
Oh,
entire museum, let Jamie do it.
Councillor Arnold, all those in favour? I think we've now reached a point where I need to hold my hand up for that. Right, thank you. Right, this was one I think I promised on an agenda as a result of having attended a larger council's partnership presentation, where half of it was on promoting tourism in North Northamptonshire. And one only has to think about this town, and we were talking about this event and that event and the other event we put on in this town. We are very geared already to tourism, but I don't think we make anything like enough of it. And there is now, as it were, an organisation operating within Northamptonshire with whom we could potentially cooperate to help promote events that we're doing, such as, for example, the Food Festival, as well as promoting Oundle itself. We've got things like our walking tour and all the rest of it. Of course, we've got a museum which not long ago won an award as the best small museum and so on. Emma was also on the same presentation as you were.
Yeah, it's the Northamptonshire Prize, and they also, we would be able to, I think it's approximately £200 a year, sort of pay them a fee, and they will help support and promote all of our events and also help us with various things. I'll just try to find the email that I received. But we're aware of Northamptonshire's Prize and what they do, so I think it's worth potentially the Comms Working Group looking into what they've got to offer and whether it would be worth us joining or subscribing to them.
Yes, I mean, personally, I'm very much in favour, as you will probably gathered, of us getting involved with this. I think it's well worth trying out. They seem to have quite a few ideas, quite a few people behind it. But if it were possible for Comms to take a look at it, preferably in time to report back to our January meeting, so that if we are, if they do recommend that we take it forward, we can then potentially pay the subs and actually take the benefit of it for the balance of the year, which will enable us to get extra publicity, both within our immediate patch and beyond it, for particular events, and indeed all sorts of useful contacts and so on. So Comms are willing to take that up. I don't know when we next due to meet, but
Council meeting back first week, January.
Yeah, well, the second full week back, week commencing, yeah.
well, that would be ideal. Take a look at that.
Contribution to that.
So if you could ensure that
Yeah, well,
Comms will get a copy of what you've seen.
Yeah.
I would say so. Right, good. The next one is a request from the Northamptonshire Community Payback Team for individual placements. And Emma's produced a very short little paper for us.
There's also a longer piece of paper, there's a longer report added as well.
Okay, a short paper and then a somewhat longer paper. That's right.
Is that with the council, or is that at places in Amble?
They've asked for the council, well, all councils to see whether they will consider either an individual placement or up to 4, carrying out tasks that they can easily do. But it would be under town council. At the moment, we have a group come, but they have a supervisor come with them, and the supervisor manages them. But this would be something that then we would manage.
So do you need to physically be there?
Yes,
Right, okay.
well, or a member of staff needs to physically be there.
So there are essentially two possibilities, a sort of office-based arrangement with somebody being in this building, or in practice, a secondment with the open space maintenance team. Yet again, I'm tempted to ask our clerk, because ultimately the responsibility will stick with her, over the, looking at the security aspects and all other aspects of having somebody on board. And it's a question of whether the benefits to the council, if there are perceived to be benefits, are outweighed by any possible disadvantages in your view. Certainly the work group scheme seems to have worked to our advantage,
Yeah, because we can
without
get
any
the project,
obvious
yeah.
problems that I've been made aware of anyway. But this is a rather different thing where you're bringing in a single individual.
I did do a short report as well, actually, because I saw it
Yeah,
on
it's
the
been
update.
yeah.
Yeah, no, I did see one. And I have tried to, off the top of my head, list some pros and cons of adopting that scheme, if you like. We already use the team, like painting the cemetery fences, like Emma mentioned, but this is for individual placements. It could be anywhere within the council, as far as I understand it, but they would have to be supervised by a member of staff, a paid member of staff. So it wouldn't necessarily be Emma, but it could be somebody else. And we can have up from one person to up to 4 individuals working for us at any one time. But I guess it's, the decision for us is, one, do we think that's going to benefit the council? I think there are some positives in the council adopting the scheme and supporting that, which I put in my report, which you'll see. And there are some, concerns or cons, if you like. Would some staff members, for example, be supportive of working with somebody who's on a community payback scheme? They might be uncomfortable with it. Have we actually got places that we could utilise people? We don't know what their skill set is. Maybe we need to interview them. I don't exactly know how the probation service, i.e., as well as the Northampton Council see, how we make sure that they're fit for purpose, if you like, and can either we have to train them, or do they already have skills that they can bring benefit to the council? Or is it that the purpose is that we can help them on a better road, a better path for the future, rather than offending, by giving them some skills potentially? But I've just captured some of my own thoughts in the short report that's attached. But I'm very happy if other people think of any pros or cons, or any other comments or things they would like me to look into. I'm happy to take that on board and maybe discuss it further with Emma, bring it back to the meeting in January and take a decision on it.
Emma, have you discussed any of this with other staff members? Have you had?
No, I haven't, no, because, the lady that I contacted, she said she'd be happy to have a meeting, which I think would be
Beneficial.
worthwhile.
Yeah.
Just to basically get a little bit more information.
Yeah.
Because we're not a very big team, but I'm trying to think what they could do that would benefit them, benefit us, because most of the things I keep thinking of, if we've got to have a member of staff with them, it's, I don't know, it's.
But do we know that they have to be with them the
That's
whole time?
Yeah,
Yeah,
have to
we
be
absolutely
supervised,
have to.
because when they come as a group, they are supervised all the time.
Yeah.
Councillor Chester.
I do know a bit about the probation service and the way it works, and I think it would be their advantage in this particular instance, because I know that they're having a tremendously difficult time finding people to supervise the young people. And I'm just thinking about things like health and safety, and that's having to do probably a lot more risk assessments.
Yeah.
And things like that. And I personally think that it would stretch our staff too much. somebody would have to be taken off doing something else in order to do it.
My understanding also is that whatever the work is, it can't be something that we're actually paying somebody to do. So it's got to be, say like, for example, we're not paying anybody with the team payback, community payback at the cemetery, because to paint the rails. So
Yes.
really, it's identifying something that we don't already pay somebody for, like say somebody cuts the grass. It can't be that,
That's right,
because we
absolutely.
pay someone to do that, so we would have to find
It would have to be
tasks
the
that were
internal
over-
staff
yeah.
team who would be
Yeah.
doing it.
Yeah.
Mostly.
Thanks, Pauline.
So it seems to me that we ought to be saying to Councillor Gray, she's running in as president,
Yeah.
we ought to be saying to you, because you said it in here, you're
Yes.
willing to look into it further.
Yeah.
And rather than debate and design
Yeah.
the process by committee,
Absolutely.
it goes away, it comes back with a proposal in January. And then we've done, we move on.
Seems to me that would make a lot of sense.
I'm very happy for
Great,
people to
happy to
email
do.
me with any suggestions of what they could or couldn't do, or why we shouldn't adopt that scheme.
So if over the festive period, you suddenly find a compelling need to turn your mind to council affairs and you come up with a brainwave, contact Peter and she can build it into her thought process. I think we'll take you up on that.
Just an extra one, I also think it's useful to speak to to Roger meeting, speak to.
Definitely, I completely agree, I'd be happy to attend with you.
I'll sort that out.
I could just add and say one thing, I think you said it might be youngsters, but of course it might not always be youngsters, it might be very capable people who have
Absolutely.
just offended
Yeah.
in some way.
Well, this is the, yes, I suppose so.
They've all also been categorised as low to medium risk, so it's not so they're like murderers or anything like that, you know. They are meant to be,
Yeah.
you know, relatively low level in terms of.
I agree.
Right, let's move on. And the visit to Rothwell Town Council. Councillor,
So,
obviously we've got the paper.
thank you, yeah, I won't read the paper, I'll just turn immediately to actions. I'm interested in feedback, A, on the paper, and B, more interested in what people think we should do, if anything, different. And before I get those, I'm very keen on reviewing the vision. It seems to me that that ought to be driving what we're doing. It also ought to be driving, as we discussed at Rothwell, it ought to be driving the various projects and strategies we take on board and focus on as a council. So I'm really interested in reviewing the vision of the council. I'm interested also in surveying the town to see what the town think the council should be doing within set parameters, because clearly not all priorities. I'm also interested in what councillors think about the intergenerational support that's been mentioned. We had a youth club proposal way back in time when I first started, nothing's come of that. At Rothwell, with a much smaller budget and a much larger population, had an annual pensioners' Christmas party. We don't do that. This is something we should be doing there. Rothwell had better or more, it seems to me, more influence at NNC level than we do. And is that something else we could work on? So the 5 actions I put down there are in order of my preference. I don't want this to be necessarily a long meeting, but I'd be interested in feedback from everybody else. I can't count 6. I'm interested in people's feedback on whether we should do any of these, and if any, which we should be focusing on.
In regards to the youth club, well, from my understanding, there was going to be, there was a proposal to start a youth club in this building, what was the old preschool, but that fell through. I would be personally very happy to, I don't know what I would do, but something, but I think Outlook Bay essentially could do with a youth club, and it doesn't have one. In fact, we offer virtually nothing for our youth, so I think I'll be very interested in working on that. That's what I'll say. I think it'd be a really good idea.
I agree.
Thank you.
It seems to me that asking the town as to what they would like to see this council do, perhaps that it doesn't do already, or do better, something that we maybe become complacent about, would be a good idea, and certainly is a matter of so far as revisiting the neighbourhood plan is concerned, I'm quite happy to put that on the next planning meeting agenda, because of course we know that NNC are just beginning a new process which will involve the identification of new sites and so on. And if we don't do something ourselves in the form of a neighbourhood plan, ultimately things will be imposed upon us. Of course, we can contribute towards that debate, but in many respects, it would still be better to have it. And we had a very bruising experience with the last one. We spent a fortune on it and got completely scuppered. I have a feeling that we were completely scuppered because ENC were determined that we would have to be completely scuppered, that personal view. But that doesn't mean to say that we shouldn't potentially take a look at it again.
I don't see the vision statement as being the planning committee's purview. I see it as being the council's.
No, I was looking more at revisiting the Humble Neighbourhood Plan, further point down.
Oh, I see.
As to the vision thing, yeah, again, I think that's the sort of thing that should be almost kept constantly in review. That particular vision was set a few years ago now, and don't have a kind of an annual review of it. Maybe we should.
Well, so for example, and we talked about this already, so I won't belabor the point unnecessarily, I hope, but the vision that currently stands is encouraging an expanded tourist economy. How are we doing that? A fantastic place to live, work and enjoy. Well, I don't know how fantastic it is for youngsters without a youth club, for example. I don't know if for older people if they haven't got that kind of community support. So I think there are a number of things we could be doing, but it needs a bit of enthusiasm around the table.
Councillor Shaw, I think that's
I welcome the document. I think there are things that we can definitely learn from looking at what other councils do. And I'm very supportive of the 6 points. I think my main issue around vision is I think we should do it, and we should do it on a kind of rolling basis every, whatever, 3 or 4 years. We should relook at the vision. I think what I'm really asking is what the mechanism for doing that actually is. I agree we should do it, but again, is that a subgroup? I don't think we can do it within a meeting like this. So it's just really trying to understand how it actually happens. That's all I would say.
Yeah, I agree with what you're saying, Matt. I actually think what John said. I'm sorry, did I butt in there?
Not to worry, I just asked the councillor.
Sorry, I thought you said me.
Well, as the councillor Hutton, then councillor Gray.
After you.
You're a full flag.
After you.
I was just going to observe that there is a lot going on in the town for older people. That's not to say that we couldn't do more to support what goes on, but there's the monthly lunch club, there was a Christmas lunch club, there's the school that organises a 60 club, the volunteer action block friendly service, so there's quite a lot actually. There's churches as well, doing stuff. So there's actually quite a lot that goes on. Now, that's not to say that there couldn't be more, that we couldn't do more to publicise it, we couldn't do more to support it, we couldn't do more to promote it. So, by all means, yes, there's things we should do as council to store for those things, but it would be wrong to say that there's nothing there already. There's actually quite a lot.
Yeah, I hope that's not what I said, but yes, I take your point. Thank you.
Councillor Gray.
I was going to say, I agree with what John said, and he's made some really good suggestions in there. But equally, what Mike said is implementing it, how do you do it? Whether it's subgroups, whatever we decide. But what I think we always end up having little subgroups. And I think that somehow, as a council, we need to get together and all thrash out ideas, not just on an online meeting like this, but we never seem to get together at any other time to have real, you know, a brainstorm, if you like, about the things that we can do. Or like the suggestion about putting it out to the town to see what kind of things they want. We don't know, because how do we talk to them? It's all anecdotal as far as I'm concerned. I hear, you know, I'm hearing this, I'm hearing that. But we don't really seem to do any proper surveys to find out actually what the town does want. Do they want things for more, you know, more senior people in the town? If they do, great. What kind of things do they want? Do they want a whisk drive? Do they want a tea dance? You know, all these ideas, but we don't ever seem to come together as a group and thrash out a vision for those kind of things.
But to just pick up some of the points, and then other points can be made, so we don't lose the focus. The first thing I would say is there are mechanisms for agreeing the vision. It's not in this meeting, although approval would have to be in open forum, I think. So there are mechanisms. I'm not proposing a mechanism in this paper because I'm not going to waste my time. If there isn't enthusiasm, I can make that proposal. Surveying the town, I think, is a good idea. We need to be really, really careful to manage people's expectations. We've already talked about the level of resource we've got at the council.
Yeah.
We've already got a pretty high preset. And so we need just to be careful that we don't promise things we can't deliver. So a survey would be very useful, I think, but it needs to be managed very, very carefully. And again, if there's enthusiasm around here, I can draw something up, which might take 12 months to do for all of these things, because I don't want to overstretch the councillors or the council staff. We have to be careful and conscious of resource.
Councillor Chester.
I think the problem is things happen more slowly on councils because of the way in which they are constructed, so that we only have full council meeting once a month, etc. And we over the years, I mean, this is, hearing what Councillor Gray is saying, that we never get together and discuss things, there are mechanisms. I mean, did everybody come to the town meeting? No. You know, there are things there, and it's very hard to get people to, if you like, commit to them. Very hard, and you have to work very hard to get a full meeting. And we haven't had many surveys, haven't we, over time, particularly over doing the plan.
Yes.
A lot of consultation. It's ever so difficult. That's what we've got to do there.
Things like never one fair lady.
Councillor Gray and Councillor Raphael.
Yeah, did you mean that did all the councillors come to the town meeting?
No, I meant
the townsfolk?
both
Yeah.
councillors and
Okay.
the public. Very, very hard. So there are things, if they really felt strongly, more of them would come.
Maybe they don't feel that's the forum to go and talk about it.
Well, yeah, but they could say that they don't like the forum. Let's change it. You see what I'm trying to say? But the councils work jolly hard. We're all turning out at least once a week, I would have said, for something. In this day and age, I mean, we've talked about moving with the times, and the times these days are that people don't want to spend the time organising themselves.
Councillor Raphael.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Having heard what colleagues have said, I come to the conclusion that, quite frankly, we should do nothing in a hurry and avoid getting gummed up prematurely in things we might come to regret. That's thoroughly negative. On the positive side, though, in practice, since we all live in Outlaw, we're all out and about in various ways, So if any of the people we talk to buttonhole us with any proposal, a very bright idea, then we can encourage them to at least get them down on paper, that's if they're literate and numerate. In any case, bring them up here and then explore them further. But I think Councillor Wayne is right. We should guard against getting over-committed. So on balance, might I move now that having given the subject a thorough airing, we leave it for a while and see how things develop naturally. With perhaps, in the first instance, a more positive note, to flag it up at our next town meeting and see how the, what is it, 12 or so people who turn up say.
I think, in a sense, the difficulty I see with that approach is that it's slightly like kicking the ball into the long grass. Because if we just leave it to the town meeting, that's, you know, a good 5 or 6 months ago. And I think it's relatively clear from the discussion around the table, you know, it's not that there isn't some enthusiasm for taking some of these things forward, it's more the mechanics of it, and it's certainly the delivery of it. I would suggest that if the Council Wayne's already put in quite a bit of work, if he's willing to continue working this up, and if others want to talk to him and be part of working it up, I'm sure he's not going to turn them away. In fact, I should think he'll probably grab them to him a bit like a spider in a web and not let you go, because
I'm welcoming it. I think that the only response I give is if you do nothing, nothing will happen.
I think that's what Councillor.
Promotion just automotive.
I think it's worth looking at the vision with a view to having something to take to the annual town meeting. Say, this is a vision that we've worked on, and get their view as the first instance. I think some of the other things, you know, we can, as Joe said, there is a lot. Volunteer action on the 21st. They've got a Christmas lunch down in the hub that they're having for elderly people, lonely people, people who are going to be on their own at Christmas. So that we see a lot that goes on.
Yeah.
I do agree. You know, it's a shame. We were really prepared to support that youth club, but I think circumstances change. But it might be worth speaking to the association and just seeing what they say. But I think it would be worth looking at the vision with views taken out of town.
Well, let's keep the momentum on that, guys.
I'll have that on the agenda in January. I'm not here in January, so I'd suggest we have a meeting in February.
We'll have it on the agenda for February, but between now and February, can people think about that and perhaps come up with some ideas for changes to extensions of that vision? But bear in mind, visions are great, but you do need to be able to back them up. Otherwise, people just get excited and then feel let down and wonder what the point of the council is at all. So, I think it was probably Councillor Wade said something about not raising expectations unreasonably, and that's also going to have to play a fair part in all of this. You do not have an unlimited budget, correct? Right, let's move on to financial matters. I'm conscious we haven't even looked at the budget yet. It's being 10:09. Let's do the formal bit. The first item is to approve the bank reconciliation balance sheet and budget for November 2023. The figures are on your agenda for current balances. Unless anybody's got any burning questions, can I simply have somebody propose that we approve it?
Move.
Is all right, seconded by Councillor Chesser. All those in favour? Good. The next item is a proposition that the schedule of payments for November 2023 are retrospectively approved. You can have them somewhere, but. It's too gross yourselves, honestly, it's so much work.
If it helps, I've looked through the payments and I've raised 3 queries with Emma, otherwise they seem fine to me, so I'm happy to propose it.
Understanded. So proposed by councillor Wade, seconded by, I support for choice, councillor Shore. All those in favour? To receive the minutes from the Finance and General Purposes Committee meeting, the main business of which, quite frankly, was to consider the budget for 2024-2025. I assure those councillors who were not members of the committee and who perhaps did not follow it or attempt to follow it on YouTube, that there was almost a line-by-line scrutiny of this budget. And various things were looked at as to whether or not certain items should be included, excluded, increased, decreased. And we've ended up with a budget. We've ended up with a proposal. And the proposal is for a precept, take a deep breath, of £565,043. And then there was a time when we absolutely balked at the idea of becoming a council with a budget of in excess of £500,000. But to some extent, with the property base that we have, and the things that we do and the things that we want to do, it's pretty well inevitable. The good news is that that's an increase of only 2.59%. Since I've been driving home this evening, hearing lots of talk about councils pushing up their precepts by 5%, because that's what the government is going to allow them to do. Assuming that NNC follow that, we will look pretty virtuous at coming at roughly half that rate. But if anybody wants to take any particular items of the budget and start playing with them, technically you can, but bear in mind that unbalances the budget somewhat and makes it pretty difficult to then sort out precept figure, as the finance officer is not here with the programme, and the figure is the recommendation from your Finance and General Purposes Committee. Any debate or proposal? Councillor Rayford.
Willing to formally propose, but just before I do so, like to put on the marker in respect of volunteer action, where it's our practice to give them a grant every year for very sound reasons. A very well run and very necessary organisation. They're present to receive a grant also from Northamptonshire Council, but there is a question mark as to whether they will continue to do so, on which I'm expecting to receive clarification very soon indeed. So in the event that if for any reason Northamptonshire Council did not give volunteer action any funding for the coming financial year, I hope we'd be in a position to increase what funding we'd be giving them anyway, if only for the sake of their morale.
Can I assure Councillor Rycroft that this was specifically discussed at the FNGP, and we did actually come to the conclusion that without increasing the grants budget, there would be enough money in the grants budget to cover a shortfall of the order of the NNC grant should happen. I certainly didn't want to give any impression to NNC that we were quite happy to take over the funding of volunteer action.
Sorry.
My apologies to everybody. The clerk.
Can I just say that we don't give a regular yearly grant to Volunteer Action?
That's right, that's correct.
They had a grant of £500 as part of our King's Foundation grant that we did. But before that, they haven't had a grant for a number of years. So we don't.
So it's an ad hoc provision.
Yeah, so if they want to raise funds for a particular thing, quite often, they're not quite often, because they haven't done it quite often, they will apply for a grant to us like everybody else does. But we don't automatically give them an annual grant.
Thank you. Oh, well, on the basis of assurance, in practice, we could give them what help we can.
Yes, if they're part, yeah.
Yeah, I'm content to formally move, whatever it is, the decision taken by committee in my absence.
I don't want it to be recorded anywhere that we've always had a grant every year, because that's misinformation.
Well, I
That's
think
what I've
that-
just
that
said.
came out.
Hang on, the
That
clerk's
came out.
absolutely right. Because somebody in 2 or 3 years' time might say, well, it's about time we didn't give them a grant, because they always have a grant every year. We never, ever have.
In the light of Councillor Chesler's clarification, which confirms what the clerk told us, I'm very content that nobody could come back.
And I'm fairly sure that the minute will simply record the fact that it was a proposal to accept the precept that was passed, rather than the fact that there was a discussion on a particular item. As indeed you see, there is no such reference to the discussion on that, or indeed the discussion on any other points of detail.
So moved.
So I have a proposal. Does anybody want to second that, or super variation to it? Heaven forbid. I think Councillor Wade was seconding it. All those in favour of the precept figure? So it's a huge sigh of relief, because we've got our budget together in time to get it to NMC. The next item is to approve the quote for the occupational health consultant. And I'm sure some of these figures. There's a lot of paperwork, I can't actually find the figure itself.
It isn't really a defined figure, because
No,
it does
it's
very much
not.
depend on what you.
Yes, the rates are shown within the agreement, which shows that the occupational health advisor will charge a day rate of £100. I hasten to assure people that it's unlikely that we will be getting somebody in doing days and days each month at £900 a day. Councillor Wade and Councillor Hunt.
I'd be interested to know from the clerk which of these two she recommends. I'm also interested to know whether these provide services to other councils. I'm particularly interested in her view that the CHM agreement, where they're proposing a 3-year contract before we've even heard at all.
I was under the understanding when I spoke to that, be held bound into a 3-year, but I will confirm that. I know it's written. The other one also has, they've got fees if you want to move somewhere else. I only spoke to one. The other one, it was an online form, and then they just sent me that information. The third company that I went to after twice and going back to them, didn't come back with anything. The lady that I spoke to from, let me just confirm which one it was.
Corazon or CHM?
Not the Corazon one was the one where they just emailed me through the document. The other one was the one that was actually recommended by a health and safety consultant. And I did speak to her. She does work with other councils, but then other.
CHM.
Yes, other companies, but I would go back to her because I was under the understanding that it couldn't be a bound contract, but we would only pay for what we use the service for. So I just would need, but for me, there's not a huge amount of difference between the two, and I think it depends. It's not going to be every member of staff and a full, come in and go through every single thing we do. Then it's just help with a couple of things that have been highlighted.
Very supportive of the principle, just need to be confident that A, it's not a 3-year contract.
Yeah.
We don't use them at all. B, for me, I want to see a 6-month review. Because my nervousness with all this kind of organisation is that it feeds on itself.
Yeah.
We just need to be careful about it. Whilst at the same time, conscious of our employees' health.
So I think my comments are going to be very similar to what Councillor Willis just said. I mean, it did seem like an extremely open-ended arrangement with potential for costs to get out of control quite quickly if too many days at £900 a day. I feel like we should know intimately where it is already, but presumably there's a number in next year's budget which is there for occupational health.
Well,
And if there isn't,
there isn't,
well,
because
okay,
this has all come in, yeah.
It would come out of the professional services budget.
Yeah, but exactly. So
Yeah.
There's no huge amount in there because we have literally no, A, we didn't have the figures, but B, we have no idea how much we might use them.
But I think we need to be very clear that, that we're not going to overspend a budget. So that professional services budget needs to cover all our requirements for the year. And I totally agree with 6 months. And yet, I don't even see why there should be 3-year term of that contract because it's so open-ended. It's just basically, you can call us up and we'll come in.
Well, that's the understanding.
Why do you need a contract if it's as open as that? The remuneration could be zero or tens of thousands of pounds depending on how much we use them.
And it will increase automatically by the rate of inflation every year. So that £900 last year would be £990 this year. Very quick increases, so yeah. Let's proceed cautiously.
Yeah. So the item is to approve a quote.
I
think the reality is that we're not totally sure we should be approving it in the form that it's been presented to us.
If you're happy for me to proceed, I will go back to them and just clarify the one contract. I'm not going to go back to both of them. But also I will give a bit more information about why we're asking for their input to see if they can actually say, well, we think that will cost this much. And then go back to the next meeting.
And what I'd also like to see is how that fits with next year's budget. And, what professional services are we going to need, and not just occupational health, but in other areas, and therefore we're not available for that purpose.
All of this looks like we're deferring this item to January. And to take some negotiation. As Councillor Wade rightly points out, we haven't tried it, we've no idea if it's for us or not. Right. To agree to use Section 106 funds currently held with NNC to pay for Fletton Field. I'd like to think that this is a little bit of a no-brainer. The money is there. It can be used for that purpose. We do want to buy Fletton Field. We know what the price is. It's been agreed. It really requires us to rubber stamp it this evening. And therefore I'm going to propose that we do indeed agree to use Section 106 funds as a currently held with NNC purpose. Seconded, Mr. Hutton, is in favour? Thank you for that. To approve a quote for the ACO or ACO drain in the Drill Hall car park.
Right, this is another one that, the states have two quotes, one being, 7,900 plus VAT, the other being, 2,985 plus VAT. And I think because of the difference, you asked Lisa for a third quote. Both the quote, either if you went with either of these, would be more than the states could
Yes.
approve. So it came to this meeting because it does need to be done sooner rather than later. She's approached 3 other companies, 2 let her down. She then spoke to a third today to say, could you give us a quote? They said, yes, definitely would. Up until 7:20 tonight, we were still looking and chasing and they haven't. So we are left with these 2 quotes. So I don't know what to suggest. I mean, State, you know about this.
Yeah,
It's something that needs to be
it
done.
really is.
I don't know whether you want to approve a certain amount of money, or whether you say, right, we'll approve up to 7,900. But if we can get that other quote in, or just want to go with the cheaper one. I mean,
It's just such a vast
it
difference.
doesn't
between the
seem
two.
like a really complex job.
No.
When you read through the quotes, and you've seen both of these,
Yeah.
haven't you? I don't know why they're
But
so
Charlie,
different.
Mickey, is to give it to you, do you have a recommendation from the estate?
I think, geez, this is tough. I can't. I couldn't see much between the 2, personally. So that would make me think that the cheaper option,
Don't they want to look at these 2?
yeah. I don't want to speak on behalf of the Estates Committee, but I would say there wasn't a, I think between us, there wasn't a great difference that we could find between them. It was more the way that the water left the drain was the difference, I think, between the 2. Like how that accounts for the
They don't know.
difference.
What was 300?
Yeah, I had a friend who was a builder who used to do that, so I didn't really want to say that. Yeah.
I've seen it, so.
Yeah. Max, any others?
Again, I don't want to repeat what the chair of the Estates Committee has already said. I kind of felt that the more expensive of the 2 were fishing. I mean, there's actually very little in their document. There doesn't seem to be any obvious reason why there's such a big difference between the 2.
Just a question, can the lower quote, will they give a guarantee for the works? Will they guarantee the works will, for any period of time, for 3 years or 5 years or something?
I don't want to speak out of turn, but I do think there was, certainly in one of the quotes, 3-year guarantee.
I think that's actually more expensive of the 2.
Is it? Okay.
I'd maybe go back to the chief one and say, are you prepared to guarantee this work? If they're prepared to guarantee it for 3 to 5 years.
Yeah.
I'd start at 5 years. I'd go with that. I see no reason to go with the budget.
And given what needs to be done, it does seem that the expensive one is incredibly expensive.
Do we have any references to the cheap one? So do we
Sorry?
have any references to the cheap one? Do our
No,
guys know?
I haven't, no, I don't know. I mean, Lisa's run a lot of companies,
Yeah.
some just aren't even bothered, they're too
Yeah.
busy, they don't want to quote. I don't know how she found this company, but I can ask her. I mean, you know, going for quotes is you just get desperate. So you just start going from,
Also, it can be reluctant to quote. It could be this, simply quoting that high price in the expectation of getting
Yes,
Yeah.
I did genuinely consider that.
but not wanting to upset the council. Because they want to maintain.
Yes, because the company that quoted the higher price are the company that we very recently used to inspect the drains connected to where that's going to be. So
So
we have a standing relationship with them.
Sanchez.
Strangely, the cheaper one seems to give actual
Oh, it
details.
does, it does.
It sounds more genuine, the other sounds like a sort of guess and let's get rid of them.
Yeah, I mean, the other one, the materials at 3,000, I'm just trying to think of what those materials are, because knowing what it is.
Yeah.
It's a bit of, it's pipe work
Yeah.
and
Clear most
it's dry, yeah.
Quite an expensive hole, isn't it?
That was a cheap one, food material.
Mike, I just add, there is some urgency to it.
There is,
because
there
This
is.
has gone on for some months, and it partly all kicked off as a result of the properties opposite the car park being flooded. And we do need to be seen to be taking action on their behalf.
Well, there seem to be two possibilities. One is to approve one or other of these two quotes. The other is to give a budget, probably around £3,000, in case, as inevitably may happen, Lisa might get a quote tomorrow at £2,500, which offers everything that we want, plus a guarantee and all the rest of it.
I think
the
it's worth
budget-
doing, sorry, what councillor Wade said is just see if there's cheaper one will give us guarantee. And see what they say.
Do you need approval? You need, I'm here.
But what is the, what do we do with
Yeah.
the vote?
Yeah.
I like the idea of approving a budget because, as the clerk said, there may be a quote that comes in tomorrow or the next day. That's somewhere between the middle.
Between the two, which is what we were looking
So
for.
if we can approve a budget tonight and leave it in the hands of Lisa and others, then I think that's all we're required to do. And I would propose a budget, somewhere between those two figures.
Well, one comes out at broadly and the other one at 3,000. £5 difference, so you'd be talking about somewhere around 5.5, halfway forward.
Yeah.
Do I have a proposal from somebody? Councillor Shield.
I propose that we set a budget of a maximum of £5,500. And Lisa, on behalf of the States Committee, can go up to that maximum with any further quote.
With a guarantee or not?
Sorry?
The quote with a guarantee?
Oh, absolutely, yeah, we want guarantees.
I'd be reluctant to say, because if you don't give a guarantee, you've got to come back. So I would say 5,000, 5,500, and leave it with the clerk to.
I've got a clear picture of our concern. Well, I've got a proposal.
Do we have a time limit on that?
Well, I think that has to be implicit, because otherwise we go on forever.
Yeah.
And Lisa's very well aware of the urgency.
We're very conscious of the fact the office is going to close within a very short period of time and not reopen until January.
Yeah.
So, realistically, you're either going to set a deadline and say it's got to be done before the Christmas break.
It's not gonna happen
We're looking at that
this
first weekend of, the first week of January.
Because we're also gonna have to close the, car park, so we will have to give
Give
notice
notice.
that the car park will be closed. That's why we need to sort it out sooner rather than later.
If, I know the proposal's been made, but if we propose to make, and at least we get agreement to go back to the contractor and say, give us some dates, then we know what we're working to.
Yeah.
It sounds to me like there's an urgency in approving a budget rather than urgency in.
Yeah.
Yes, because it has a knock-on effect, yeah.
So in that case, I said the proposal of £5,500 for the town clerk.
When I have a proposal, it's seconded.
Yeah.
That's the full variation. All those in favour? That's unanimous. Right, to agree the hub manager holding a warm for winter event in the hub. There's a short little paper on that.
Does this really need council approval?
It would appear that we're asking.
Well, it's spending a bit of money on a test. And initially, there was a discussion about if somebody brings their electric blanket, certain councils have purchased a number of electric blankets, say, new ones, say, here's one. I'm not necessarily sure whether we should do that, but, having, somebody coming and pat testing, we've got to pay for that, which is only £60, but.
Should I ask the question, do we have to approve the spend of £60, or is that within your purview?
It is, but I think the whole scheme is a new scheme that involves spending money, so it's something that we haven't done before.
It's like relatively close, I propose we do it here.
Thank you.
Proposed, seconded, all those in favour? Good. Highway matters. This one was the last page, anyway. First bit is simply to receive the report from the speed indicator device. Wrote it. We've had many discussions on it, so I don't propose to spend any time on it, particularly at 25 to 10. 23-12302 to receive the Transport Working Party's report and consider cycling training request. So the report is there. And we've got some highlighted items. Please, with full council, consider granting permission for the clerk to be in contact with Brightways to facilitate the use of Fletton House car park as described above for 2 Tuesday slots in January. Also suggests we should lend our support for the Super 2 bid. And that's probably it. Are we happy with what is being suggested to us?
I'm supportive of it, and it's really just a question to the clerk, and that is it feasible closing off half the car park? Is that going to create too much disruption?
Yeah, I've spoken to Ian about this because I was a little bit concerned because although a Tuesday is a quieter day, we've now booked in quite a large event, and we've got now an art class starting here. And we also have volunteer action staff parking here, and I mean, if we got 10 people, it would be an issue, because I don't think it's big enough out there for
And basically, if you're happy with you closing off half of the car park, then I'm very supportive, but if that's going to create problems for you, then we need to think.
Yeah, I mean, the only other thing is, like we talked about, if it was just a small number of people, potentially they could use this area in the preschool car park, but again, I don't really know what they're doing, so I don't know if they're learning to ride a bike, because you sort of need quite a bit of space for that.
We could do it in the drill hall when it's closed for the drain.
Not entirely sure that's a good idea.
The second Tuesday would be 2 hours of cycle skills and lead rides. So I'm with Councillor Shore, if you think we can do it, we should do it. If you don't think we should, so if you don't think we can practically, and it sounds dubious, I think we need to find some other way.
I don't want to say no, because I think, it could be useful for some people. I think if we could use that space that's the preschool car park, I think that would work. I'm just mindful of how, because obviously if we shut, I don't know which half we shut up, if we shut a half off down, I suppose this end, we're still going to have vehicles coming in. And I just don't know how much of that car park they would need. I don't know what they're doing.
No.
Maybe the thing to do is for you to talk to them and see what they actually need and make a decision then.
Yeah. let me comment.
We could just give the clerk permission to do it unless she feels that it's unsafe or it's not.
That's the easiest solution.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll speak to the company this week and just see if they can come out early on in the new year.
I'm happy to know my approval of the executive board.
Bonus. And, so shall we also authorise the clerk to, as this request is to do, email Annie to express our support?
Yeah.
Seems to make sense. I don't think we've really got any time to have a great debate on it, and it was only really to receive the report. I'm going to move swiftly on. The next item is the minutes of the last planning meeting, which that's the one there. I think the one that is in a sense the biggest one is the works at Paxton, the remodeling of the building. We did not have any objection to that. Other than that, you'll note that we did object to an application in respect to 35 North Street, and that was duly refused. However, we also objected to something at 630 Old Quarry in Valley, which was about trees, and to say that one. Any questions on anything from the planning? In which case, estates management received the minutes of that meeting, which have also been circulated.
Yeah, just one thing with that. Flettonfield was the main thing, and it was agreed at that meeting that Councillor Shura and one other councillor, which turned out to be me, would go and have a chat with the Flettonfield Association, which we duly did. And it was a very good chat, and Joe was there as well, obviously, as a footnote both, yeah. And it was a good chat. I think we've worked out a way of going forward, which we're going to report back at the next estates meeting.
Good. Yeah. Right. Pleased to hear that. Unless there are any questions for Councillor Arnold. The next one is to consider having OTC properties valued. Any particular reason why, apart from updating the balance sheet?
It hasn't been done, certainly not been done since I've been here. I think the last one we had was 2012, I think. I talked to it with our insurance broker, and they said it is good to have them periodically, at least maybe every 5 years or so. So I just thought then maybe we should. Well, we should.
Yeah.
No, maybe. The reason I went to this company is because we know them, and they did the evaluation for us for Flettonfield, but they are also doing the roof survey.
Yes.
The drone.
Yeah.
And he said obviously he's going around all the buildings to do that, so he's quoted to do this at the same time, so in the springtime.
Mm-hmm. Can I just propose this, please?
I'll second it.
Words in favour? Everybody? Thank you. Communications Working Party, again, simply to receive a draft of the latest edition for the advertiser. Anything to say about that? We can move on.
Sorry, I'm just going to say something.
Yes.
Obviously, we've now got a closed session coming up.
We've got one moment.
It's 9:45. I don't know if anybody's looked at the document. I don't think it's going to be a whiz through in 5-10 minutes.
Bearing in mind that that's the document and that's the notes that go with it, it is a fairly significant piece of work, and I'll say for one, although it might be my area of expertise, I have no opportunity to use it at all.
I mean, our solicitors answered all of them, but then there's a few that I've highlighted in red that we actually need to answer. But I just think even going through all of the answers, I mean, I've been through it 2 or 3 times, it's quite complex. So, and it's been going on for a long time.
It's not frankly something we should then rush just because it's quarter to 10 at night.
Correct. And I also think it's not something that necessarily needs discussion for council, because you've got between 8 and 15 people who might turn up to discuss it. And if you've got 14 people looking at it, you can have 25 different views. So it ought to come to the council with a recommendation, in my view. And certainly my recommendation is not to repeat it.
Well, technically the next item on the agenda before we got to what we might have been discussing is any other relevant matters to report. So we'll do that anyway. Councillor Jones, anything to report?
Well, yes, I would, I'd like to say this will very likely be my last meeting with you on the council. Some of you know I've been made a housemaster at Amble School starting in January. Thank you, which will take up all my time. So I've decided to focus my efforts on that moving forward. I just wanted to make it clear how indeed enjoyable and how much of a learning experience all this has been for me, and the deep respect and awe I have for each of you, both councillors and the clerk and the wider team here, for how you serve Amble almost 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So I've learned a lot. There are many things I'm going to take forward into my career, what you've been doing. And thank you for that. That's what I wanted to say.
On behalf of the whole council, we congratulate you on your career move. We're equally sad about the fact that your career move is going to steer you away from us. It's been a pleasure working with you. It's a long life. You may find time to come back at a later stage, and you'll always be welcome here.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for all you've done. Councillor Gray. Any other matters?
Yeah, there is just one, I just want clarity on something, I think. It's my understanding, I think it was at forgive me if I'm wrong, it's the last finance meeting that we understood that there is a pot of 106, section 106 money of around £70,000 that is almost due to run out. Our ability to use that's correct, isn't it? How is the question I essentially have is how is it that we've got to the point where it's almost about to run out without using it?
Because it has been, when it was identified, when I started here, we agreed that it would go towards purchasing Fletton Field when that was going to be potentially a larger amount of money that the council was going to have to pay. So we set aside the 70,000 and added a further 25,000. And Amble School also added some money into this fund. And it was a time when there was what do you call it? Is it GoFundMe page, or a funding page was set up. But then circumstances changed. That didn't happen. East Northants Council then, that was when it was owned by Northants County Council. The Unitary Council came in. We then reacted to, what's the word, not reacted. No, the asset community value was due to run out, so we applied for that again, and the process started up. And that's how we are now in the situation with Fletton Field that we're in. In between that, because we need to spend that money, the council then agreed to spend it on a new skate park.
Yeah.
So it was earmarked for that, but then that became too expensive and we couldn't get a grant. And then obviously mindful that this money could run out. I have spoken to North Northants Council. We can use it to spend, well, they haven't said definitely, but they've said So I've got a form that we can fill out, we can purchase Betton Field with it, we can also pay towards, nearly all of the things that are in the plan. So tonight, earlier on, the council agreed that that money can now revert back to pay for Betton Field, and then I can then complete the document, and it will go to the legal team at North Wales Council in February for them to hopefully approve it.
And perhaps also to answer your question, at the last FGP, we talked about this and the fact that it's late in the day, and there's more Section 106 money probably coming up when other
Yes.
developments are approved, and we need to be more on the ball. And one of the things that the FGP has agreed is that there's an agenda item from January, and then every 6 months, updates on Section 106 monies coming in and plans for spending it when it goes out. So we've got a handle on that.
Okay, excellent, thank you.
Councillor Shaw?
No.
Councillor Wade? Councillor Icon?
Nothing to add.
Councillor Ramsey? Nothing from me either. Now, at this point, we have an option. We can either invoke standing orders and go into private session to debate an item that the clerk has already pointed out is likely to take us some time to do, or we can take a different decision to look at it at another time. My recommendation is that we do indeed defer it, because I just don't think it can be done properly now. It probably is going to have to be looked at ultimately or approved by a full council, but and it probably isn't going to be in the States meeting before that.
No.
So I think all we can do is put it on the next agenda. It was always looking like a pretty packed meeting tonight, particularly with the budget and one or two other things as well. So I'm sorry we haven't managed to do it, but unless anybody is determined that we stay on and deal with it, I'm going to suggest we close the meeting.
Yeah, well, just on that note, obviously, it is very difficult to say no to agenda items, but I think we've had a few meetings now where it's getting absolutely packed, so I think I'm going to have to sometimes maybe say we might have to defer certain things. If I don't think it's absolutely vital, we discuss it at that meeting. If it looks like we're going to go over 2 hours.
I don't hear anybody demurring from my suggestion, so I am going to close the meeting.